Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Um, so today, there's so much to talk about, so I might have to do multiple videos and stuff like that. Um, but please remember to subscribe, like the video, so that I can do more videos and continue to put out this knowledge out. Okay, I'm not going to today. This channel mainly focuses on finance and the economy and you know and the basic knowledge that people need to understand how economy works, uh, and how money works, and a lot of things. So I have a lot of information I want to put out there. Okay, and I see videos, a lot of videos out there. Everybody um, is making statement, which is most of it a valid statement, more of a complaint than anything else about how everybody's living paycheck to paycheck, which is true. How inflation is too high or is high, which is true. How the Federal Reserve, they're reporting how strong the economy is, which is true, and how people have stopped paying their bills. Some people cannot afford to pay their bills. All of the woes and the unfortunate things that are happening in terms of finances and personal finances, and I think that everything all ties in together, whether it's a personal finance from a micro level, the economy in general in macro level. Okay, there's so much to talk about because one can make argument for the fact that, okay, how come, okay, the economy is doing well, but uh, the people are the economy, right? Because the people are the ones spending the money, right? Okay, so if they're spending the money, right, uh, there's money in circulation, right? And money comes in, people are buying product, people are producing, people are selling, people are manufacturing. Okay, so today I want to, this, like I said, there's a lot I want to make reference to, but today I want to own in on a couple of things. Okay, because I want to give people the knowledge they need to know. I don't want to send out this information that continue to scare people, which is fine. People needs to be concerned about the way things are, but it's also good to understand the fact. Okay, so that when I say the fact, the um, let's say the academic point of view of what exactly is going on. Okay, so that you can really be able to dissect and understand what's happening and know where the root cause of the problem is, and hopefully be able to address it or be able to see it from a different light. Okay, so let's start with I'm going to tie in three topics together. Okay, and the three topics is going to be demand, supply, and inflation. Okay, right now a lot of people are hammering on the inflation, as if inflation really is a thing that has some kind of a special power to change the way things are. Okay, that is some kind of thing that somehow it just happens. Nobody's looking really understanding the root cause of inflation. You hear things like, oh, the federal government spent too much money and the purchasing power of the dollar has weakened. And if you think about that, yes, true, the federal government has spent money. Let's just assume, which is not the case, that the dollar purchasing power is weakened. I don't know where that would really applies, because generally, globally, dollar is if it's not the strongest currency, it's one of the strongest currency globally. The purchasing power is there. I would say 90% of the country you go to, dollar has a very strong purchasing power, including the United States. Okay, so that is, to me, that is not a strong argument. That is a layman argument. That's a generic argument, to say the least. Okay. Now, so let's look at what is going on from a demand. I'm going to use an economic principle to explain it. Let's look at it from a demand and supply perspective. And I will tie this into how inflation coming, how quote unquote inflation, or what people consider inflation, is really not inflation. We're not really dealing with inflation in the United States. We're not. Okay? What we're measuring as inflation is really, I'm going to coin it this way. What we measure inflation is the rate of demand and supply. The rate of demand and supply. Okay? The rate of demand and supply is the price. Okay? All right? Okay. So if you look at the core things that are really going up in price, they are housing, mostly consumer goods. Okay? Housing, food, cars, basically things that are before the thing we used to call things that are price elastic and price inelastic. Okay, so let me explain. Price inelastic is something that no matter what happened to the price can go up, people will still buy it because they don't have a choice. Okay, and the kind of commodity that used to fall under that category used to be fuel, right? Because fuel, you need to put fuel in your car. So you need to put gas in your car. Whether gas is $5, $6, $7, $8 a gallon, you still have to put it. So people used to consider gas as being inelastic because you don't have a choice, right? That has changed with the invent of electric cars, right? Assuming you can afford to purchase one. Electric cars have made that given people alternative, because before there was no alternative. In economics, there are things we call alternatives, right? It used to give people alternative. So electric cars have given people alternative. Ethanol, giving people alternative. So it's very hard to make the argument that gas is still inelastic. Basically, another factor of inelasticity is that mostly consumers are price takers. They don't have a choice. It's the kind of concept that plays into when there is monopoly, right? The manufacturers and the distributors, basically the sellers, set the price, and the buyers are just price takers. They don't have a choice, right? So I wouldn't really say that is still true anymore, but from an academic perspective, that has not really changed. Fuel is always considered to be inelastic, right? But given the new the advent of technology and the changes in the way we move, the way we commute, public transportation, most of it which is electric or natural gas, that has changed a lot of things. Okay, so you cannot say in this kind of situation, take the fuel gas for instance, what is driving the price of gas up? Don't say it's inflation. That is not the problem. Okay, but I will come back and give you the answer to that. Now let's go back to things that we used to call price elastic. Price elastic is that are things that if the price goes up, consumers are less likely to buy less of it. They're less likely to look for things we call substitute, alternative. I'll give you an example. Say if Coke, a bottle of Coke, 2 liters of Coke is now $3. If you like drinking Coke, right? Okay. Most people there is no strong preference between Coke and Pepsi, right? So if Coke is too much, they will go to Pepsi. And if Pepsi is like $1.59 or $1.80, people will buy that. That's a substitute, which would then force Coke to reduce its price, because now most of the customers have substituted that product for another product. Okay, so as a result, price will come down. I need you guys to pay attention to one critical thing that I just pointed out. This has nothing to do with inflation. This has nothing to do with salary. This has nothing to do with anything. It has something to do with pure demand and supply. Okay? If a demand for product remains strong, or the consumers do not have substitute or alternative to go to, they will stick to that product and pay a higher price for it, right? But if they have substitute and alternative, they are more likely to change, which then forces the other product to reduce the price to retain customers, or to start moving inventory. If not, the inventory will stay there and nobody will buy it, and that will affect the overall profit of the company, and the story continues, right? So now that we've pointed those things out, you see how the demand and supply can affect the price, and whether something is elastic or inelastic can also affect the price, right? So now, why are prices of things going up? See, you most likely going to hear all kinds of answers for this, but most likely the one that is sticking out right now, and the one people are singing like a daily song, is inflation. But no, inflation is not. Inflation is a name for what is happening, but it's not the cause of what is happening. Okay, but people look at inflation as if it's the cause of what is happening. No, inflation is the name of what is happening that people use to label what is happening. Inflation is not the cause of the reason price is going up. Price going up at this rate is called inflation, but inflation is not the cause of it. So what is the cause of the problem? Now, let's start with the basic thing. Some people might know or might not know GDP. GDP is generally the amount of things that is produced that is sold within the country, right? Even if things that are produced overseas by the citizens of that country falls under GDP. Aha. So you cannot blame other country for what is happening in the United. You can say, oh, because all our manufacturing is being done in China. Yep, but if it's done in China by American companies, it is still an American product. It is as if it was produced here. And anything that is produced here by a foreign national does not belong to America, but belongs to that countries that produce that thing. Okay? There's difference between GDP and GNP, which is the gross national product. Gross national product is only product that are produced within the country by citizens of the country. It does not include outside the country. Okay? Alright, so now let's go back to production. Okay? The demand for the product that is coming out. Okay? Are we producing enough? Because in economics there is something called surplus. So the question I'm asking is, because it is surplus that really drives the price of product. If there is a surplus, then the country either export the surplus out because they've produced more than enough for the local consumption. Then what is left over is exported out, and that forms part of export, right? So I don't want this video to be too long, and we will discuss more on this. Let's just call this part 1. The reality is that I believe that the reason prices are going up is that we're not producing enough for the American consumption. So basically there is no surplus. And let me explain why the price is. What that means is that there is a lot of money in circulation going after very few products. Okay? So when the demand basically is higher than supply, so the very few product that is out there, too much people wants it, and because of that the price is going up. So really, what is at the root cause of high prices It's not what people consider inflation, which has nothing to do with this thing. It's just a label. Is that manufacturers are not producing enough. Because once they produce enough, the price will come down because they will have too much to sell, and they will have to reduce the price so that they can sell more. And too much people are going after too few products. Okay? So basically, at this point, we are not at equilibrium. That's the reason prices are going up. If we want prices to come back down, we have to increase production on every aspect. We have to increase production on cars. We have to increase production on consumers' goods. We have to give people alternative, substitute, and that will drive prices down. But until then, if the Federal Reserve they should increase interest rate to 30%. It's not going to pre-depression time. It's not going to change anything, because at the core of the problem is the very basic economic principle of supply and demand. Right now, demand is so high, and because demand is so high and supply is so low, people have to spend more money to get the little thing that they want. Okay, that's the problem. That's why you see the government come and said the economy is strong, because people are spending more money to get few products. Economy is strong because the money is being spent. People are borrowing money to spend. That's because supply is lower than demand. Okay, if supply was higher or at equilibrium, the price of things would not be this high, and inflation, quote unquote, that they used to label the rise of price of things would not be what we're seeing today. So if we want to fix what's going on, we need to ramp up supply, and we need to give consumers alternative and substitute. We have taken this away from consumers by not producing enough. Artificially, by not producing much, you cause an artificial inflation, which is the increase in price. Okay, and even things that are produced overseas, because of globalization, things are exported everywhere now. So no country really have monopoly on production anymore. It's all about where you can send product to, who's willing to buy it. Okay, so globalization is also part of the problem. So this is not a United States problem alone. That's why if you pay attention, everywhere in the world, the prices of things have gone up. Are you telling me all the countries in the world have managed to figure a way to screw things up? Nah. It's globalization. And the globalization has to do with what I would call global demand, global supply. Right now, global demand and global supply is not at equilibrium. And I can tell you, global demand is higher than global supply. I don't know if it's some of it might be bad to do with war that is happening in Ukraine, Russia, and Israel. All of this is affecting the global production of wheat and other things. This is where the problems are coming from. Okay, you hear in some part of the world, you hear farming, there's famine, because there's hunger in the land. Things are not, agriculture is not what it used to be. There's a lot of low production right now. That is the reason price is going up. The world, as we know, is not producing to meet the current population of the globe right now. We're not keeping up with the growth of human race. So production is right now is lower than what the human race demand. That's the reason for higher price. So people need to stop blaming inflation, using inflation to say, no, it's not inflation. What is happening right now is that manufacturers are not manufacturing, for whatever reason that is. See, if there is enough supply, and supply either is equal to demand or both demand, people would not need higher salary to be able to afford the same standard of living they used to afford 5 years ago. But because demand is higher than supply and too much money is chasing too few good, that means a lot more people are looking for the same good and are willing to pay even more for the same goods. Because if you don't buy it, somebody else will buy it. Basically, that's what it comes down to. Alright guys, I don't want this video to go too long, but I have a lot more to throw out, a lot more knowledge to let you guys understand what's really going on right now. So my advice would be, look for alternative, look for substitute. Okay, take for instance, if you like Sara Lee bread and it's now $4, maybe you need to get another brand that is less $2, $2.50. Look for substitute. That would artificially start to force down the price, because if people are not buying certain product because the price is too high, the manufacturer of those products will be forced to reduce the price of those products. Basic economics. Alright guys, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. I will do more videos and keep the knowledge coming so that you guys can really know what is really going on and how to best approach it. Okay? Alright, take care. Bye.